I think we're ready to begin. Anything that you have there in you is welcome.
Laura has a hand up.
Ah, thank you. This is the way we do it, right? Everybody is responsible.
Liz, thank you. um, what's here for me is much nervousness, but a lot of excitement and also some interested curiosity. Something you said, Lynn, in a previous class is that we want our balls to be caught conversationally. Like you say something.
Yes, exactly. We want to be able to throw the ball and catch the ball, right? And
Have somebody catch our ball. Yeah.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. And you also said something about that we could say one thing so that people have a chance to catch our ball. And that just like, whoa. That really helped me because I tend to say 5 things in a complicated way. I'll put that in practice by making that one my one thing.
Now I'm curious about what the other 4 things are. I'm participating in this conversation. So you might not want to, if you want to direct your comment to me, say, Lynn, blah, blah, blah. But this is a conversation for all of us, and I'm assuming that Laura was directing that to all of us. And my response of I'm curious was just me, Lynn, not the leader.
Liz has her hand up.
Nashira has her hand up first, though.
Hi. Thanks, Liz.
Hi.
Thanks, Laura. Thanks, Lynn. I just wanted to add to what Laura was saying, which was I also feel anxious this morning. I woke up with just a lot of anxiety, and I'm not sure why, and also kind of a deep vulnerability this morning, just sitting with that this morning. And one thing, you said that, I can definitely relate to that, because when I say the 5 things, oftentimes it's with a lot of emotion, and I can sometimes see in my audience, or whoever it is I'm speaking at, because I'm saying the 5 things. I can see the sparks of wanting to respond, and so by stepping back and giving the space after that one thing, I feel like there'll be a deeper dialogue.
So I guess I'll go now, and I wanted to start by doing a little reflecting of Nashira.
Thank you.
It was a lot. I started to take a note, but then I didn't continue. But I got the very anxious and deep vulnerability as your background, Nashira. So I wanted to acknowledge that. And
Thank
then
you, Liz.
You're welcome. Lynn, you were saying that everything is welcome. And I really don't believe that. I just don't believe that. Not everything is welcome anywhere. There's a trick in it because I know that not everything is ever welcome. And there are situations where you're told that everything is welcome. Don't take the bait. You could be in trouble if you actually believe that. So
I saw Narit's hand.
Okay, I want to speak whenever it's available.
Charles?
Marie can go. Just following up on what Liz is saying, I'm reminded of Freud's idea of free association. The idea was that you censor nothing, everything's welcome. And of course, Freud very wisely noticed that nobody ever freely associates. And that became the interesting point to notice when the free association was interrupted by something. And then we get curious about what the something is that is interrupting the free association. And also the other side of it, I thought as well, let's say you're the analyst or the listener, and you notice at what point something isn't welcome that the other person is saying, and you make note of that. So this is a way of not denying or pretending that everything is welcome, but becoming aware of it and making it part of one's awareness as much as possible, because it's never completely possible. So I'd like to sort of broaden it to not just saying, don't take the bait, but notice those points. And you don't have to say anything aloud. Just noticing is already a step, I think.
Thank you, Charles. Before Nurit speaks, first you really elucidated for me what Liz said in a way that I could get my mind around it. And at the same time, as you were talking, I noticed my chest just heating up. And there's a part of me that likes to fight, because the other significant part of me wants to protect. And I want to protect Nurit's hand, having been up for quite a while. And I had a hard time hearing what you, Charles, were saying because of that. And of course, we can't see all the little hands. And I'm telling that part of me that wants to fight that. And so as Lynn said, I'm settling in my body that there was no intentional slight here. And that with Lynn in charge, I don't think anybody needs to be protected. And Nurit, please speak. I'm trying to get it out.
You were fighting for me. I love that. I love that. And I'm not used to that. So thank you. All I just wanted to say, when Laura was speaking, she said the word 5. But I haven't heard that. What do we really listen to? That's what caught my attention. I was listening to the energetic flow, for example, but I haven't heard the word 5. Or I heard it, but it passed me by. And again, I'm bringing it up in these groups a lot, how I don't really relate to words as many of the people here, also because I'm used to work more with the body and less with the thought process. So I think I just wanted to bring it up as a way of what do we really listen to? Because I think we listen on many layers.
Coming into this class this morning, there was a sense of excitement, like, after Lynn was sharing what this was about, because I enjoy engaging in conversation with different viewpoints and truly trying to understand what that person is like. If it's different than what I understand, I want to learn some more. And so I'm curious and interested and engaged in that. At the same time, I felt that excitement. I also had this hesitancy. Like, I don't want to get into any embroiled battles, and just kind of wanted to share that. It seems there's a common maybe hesitancy, and like Liz said, I don't know who said it about don't take the bait. And I myself have been in conversations where that's happened. I took the bait and wasn't genuine, I guess, so to speak.
I want to see what happens when you take the bait. I mean, because often I think don't take the bait, and then I don't take the bait. But at the moment, I want to see what happens when I do take the bait. I kind of feel that rather than a ball being thrown around, there are controlling forces around me. There's controversy about who's supposed to speak, and then controversy about whether and how one asserts it. And it's making me feel like I don't want to say anything because it feels dangerous to me. It feels like I'm not supposed to be saying these things or even thinking them. And I'm usually thinking them just like this. And I'm saying, oh, so-and-so is controlling and so-and-so wants to speak and there's all this going on. And instead, I say, what do I have to get messed up in that for? I'm just going to be quiet. And now I'm going to be quiet.
Jim, you remind me of what came up for me, which is giving myself permission. And that's what I just heard from you. You gave yourself permission. You weren't looking for permission. You gave yourself permission. And that I resonate with.
I'd like to say
Thank you.
something because it's sort of, maybe I missed something, but it seemed to me that it seemed like she was ready to speak, and then two people spoke before her, even though it had been acknowledged that it was her turn to speak. People talked anyway. And then when she did speak, nothing was reflected back. And I thought she was very gracious about it. And maybe it bothers me more so, but I find my attention fixed on that.
Yeah, I sensed the very similar thing that you said. I actually wrote it down, not being reflected, being overlooked in a certain way, not belonging. So I'm really happy you said that.
But I found what you said very interesting and sort of expansive. You know, like what actually is being listened to? Are people just listening to themselves and then talking? Or is there a sense of expansiveness and inclusion of the group? Not just what's being said, but you're inviting us to look more deeply and to feel and express more deeply. Wow, I thought that was terrific.
I love, Greg, that you were being the interaction that you wanted in the group. Felt pain at Norit's ball not being caught, and then you caught it.
Nice to be called on. Really feel seen. Sometimes the pause really help me to speak. It goes fast, maybe a little too fast, so that somebody else's ideas coming in, and was really resonating with a lot of things that you said, Norit. Not so much that it's deeper, it's just other ways of listening. This format of Zoom is very audio and visual. I think I miss the in-person interaction, the space too, that is in between, that is all around, that is participating as well. But I love this initiative, Lynn, and I'm sure others, to have us try this way here.
I see Kevin.
This is all new to me, this conversation and this group. So I don't know what to say. So I'm going to take a moment to check inside, to enjoy that maybe there's something in me that would like to appreciate this conversation, which is different than everyday conversations, and particularly with often focusing, gathering conversations. This is a heartfelt interaction. It is the essence of felt sense, what that means as an experience rather than as a thought. And it seems to be in play, using the word playfulness or catching the ball. It's different from the one that I presented last week about the ball game of the tennis. This is a different tennis game where there is no competition. There's a kind of mutual flow with one another. And that seems to be self-evident here. That's what I would desire in this kind of conversation, which is being modeled by Lynn for this to evolve. I've always wanted to meet with Lynn because my focusing partner of 15 years, Greg Madison, has always wanted us to get together. Then I also learned that she has a sight issue, and I do too. I'm blind, kind of. I mean, I can't read or write. I can see you and I can feel you. It's almost like I can't do this. And so this opens up to me. I can feel and see you differently. And I'm grateful for my handicap. Thank you for being here with me and you, us together, a we.
Thank you, Kevin, for that wonderful ball that you threw to me and to the group. I feel very touched and very seen in terms of this conversation being something new that we can play with in the focusing world. you took it in so sensitively, wholeheartedly.
Kevin, I'd like to say also that I was very touched by just even at the very beginning that you knew there was something but you didn't know and you took that pause. I think that really helped ground me. And now I'm reflecting back when I was speaking, I don't have the sense that I was coming from that place. I think some of my excitement was overtaking. So I feel more grounded and more in touch bodily, embodied aspect. So thank you.
Kevin, I think the way I heard some of what you said was about taking in the energy in the group with that piece that, when you don't see fully, because I went through a period where my sight was very blurred and I got more dependent on what the energy was coming through, sometimes even more than the words. And it reminded me as a child, that's the way I think I took in the world, because I didn't often want the words coming at me. Reed also talked about this taking in the energy. And I think what happens sometimes is that my default seems to be hearing judgment. But as I sit here and just breathe a little more deeply, I can switch it to something else. It's a little bit of a new process for me. So I'm not sure yet how it works, but I really want it to work because the judgy place creates alienation, and I really don't want that from any of you.
I think maybe you just gave a great example of what Lynn said toward the end in her little talk about how she said it's difficult to capture how the conversation threads together somehow and wanting us to begin to notice that. And you picked up on first Nurit's speaking the word about energy. And then Kevin, you emanated it, the energy, the intimacy that can come from this Zoom. Marianne also said, "Oh yeah, I get it now." And maybe that's not what I wasn't really having that energy at the time. And then when you spoke, Dorothy, I could see all of those coming to you. And then you added, "So why is it important to do that?" And you just hit it because there's a judger inside that is your default, and you would like that judger to have some peace someplace so that you could enjoy the connection more. Does that say it at all? I don't want to speak for you on that part, the judgy part.
I think so. It's the judgy part's very interesting as you said it. I thought you were saying that I was the judge, was standing out, but it was more the feeling of being judged. And even the subtlety of I was one of those that jumped in to represent Charles and felt judged that, oh, I didn't take in the group. I didn't see the whole. I just felt the energy of one person and wanted to support that one person. And it just gave me a little lesson on something I do in my life. So it's more, I don't know, it's both. You're always both parts, right? You're the judge and the feeling and the one being judged. Just would like to move to a different place where that particular energy is in me. It was such a protective energy, protector, protective. And I would just like to move to a different place where that's not so on top.
I had loved your term, Dorothy, the judgy place. Thank you for pointing that out about the conversation, BJ. That judgy place is both being judged and judging. I love that you said it's protective and it's a protector, and that can settle and sort of let that rest a bit. really resonated to that judgy place being so primal, so part of our makeup as humans.
I wonder if someone could say, I'm sorry, Charles, were you about to speak? Do you want to say
No,
something?
go ahead. Go ahead.
I just was hoping some folks could say some more about, Lynn, I think you said finding safety in the body. Like, how do we be safe in relationship or in relating, and in the body, being embodied? Unpack that a little bit more. Almost, I mean, I guess what I'm thinking is, I don't know that I have great experience of even what it's like to be in my body or sensing that much when I'm sort of flying away, but that probably it's a good idea not to take much action or to have a lot of intercourse in the world if you feel like you're not in your body. It's best to maybe land before doing much. That's a big one for me. You know, I can be dissociative or not quite in my body, and that's how I can manage being in the world. And then being in the body, certainly checking in and knowing, that doesn't feel good, or that does feel good, is a great way to kind of know the temperature. Is it too hot? Is it too cold? I just wanted some help with, how do you get into your body, maybe? How do you land?
Seems like wonderful, wonderful questions for us to be taking some time with. Obviously, one thing is, of course, pausing, but that's sort of a little too simple, isn't it? Sensing, pausing, slowing down, being aware of our reactivity, keeping ourselves compassionate,
Breathing.
breathing.
Breathing and smiling to oneself at what's inside.
I wanted to just thank Dorothy, because when you see, I just wanted to comment a little on an earlier interaction, because it seemed like I had jumped the line with Narit, and I had not been aware of that. I thought somebody had acknowledged me, and I took the ball. And then I felt terrible, because it seems a number of people felt that I had kind of jumped in and in front of Narit, and I had not meant to. And I appreciate Dorothy's acknowledging. I think you mentioned I knew somebody had mentioned my name as having had my hand up. I wasn't sure who. So really it helps to heal something inside for you, Dorothy, to mention that. I think it might have been you who mentioned me.
Yeah.
And I just thank you so much for that. I just feel my heart going out to you. It helps me to heal from what felt like a moment of shame or embarrassment.
Can I say something here? Again, I pause because I'm addressing the key question of, how do I feel safe inside myself to know how to be in conversation with you in a way that's okay for me and perhaps for you. I just want to deeply appreciate that's the core beginning place for all of us when we come into this world. What's safe? How do I find myself? And at 86, I had the opportunity to hold my grandchild, who was about a year and a half at that time. And I was handed to the baby, because we live in different worlds. One in Sweden, one in Canada. And what do I do with a baby? And I thought instantly, I just reassure the child, tell it how beautiful it is, and I love you, and all those things. Something in my felt sense awareness said, no, let's not go there first. Let's just wait and see, and find myself basically pausing. And then the baby came alive, and it was obviously the energy in that child was looking for a connection that worked for it. And when it found it in me, it blossomed. It suddenly grew up, and I realized that's the way to grow. And it's not about me being loved by the baby. It's about the baby feeling safe enough to grow its own life. That's its purpose in life. Not to take care of me, but for me to be the source or the root or the presence to enable the child to grow. And I think we all looked for that as a beginning place. And none of us often receive that. And therefore we look at resources to be able to function in spite of that lack of grounding and safety and connecting. So I'm thank the baby for teaching me everything about life.
I just wanted to say that I have tremendous appreciation for this conversation, for this occurrence. It brings me back into the place I grew up in. And I also wanted to thank Kevin for this beautiful, beautiful relating piece. It was beautiful. But it brings me back to being in a group. I grew up in Israel where it was a society in war and a society in trauma. And the way we got together as a society when I was a little girl was everybody had to be the same. There was no diversity. There was no permission to be different. And I always suffered from that greatly. I couldn't be that way. My mind, in my being, it's like when I am in a group, I got to be like everybody else. It's not like, I mean, it's a subconscious thing. And this conversation is about being in a group in a way that is difficult, but it's nourishing and loving. And I also wanted to say something about the body, since I work with the body a lot. I think being in the body is not easy because we carry so many mythologies about the body, so many fears from the body, so many brought up to believe that the body is not okay. And we trust the mind and we don't trust the body. I find that I'm actually writing something about it now because I wanted to create a workshop about that, how to be in the body and recognize that it's not always feeling safe to be in the body, even though we think it is. The last thing I wanted to say is about Eugene Gantlin, the way I like the idea of focusing because of the idea that eventually you end up in a place where you don't have words. It's not about the words, it's about when the boxes fall and something opens and it's new.
I love the box is open, and something new comes.
Can I speak?
I
I'm
want-
raising my hand. Oh, somebody else wants to go?
I didn't raise my hand, Liz. You can go. I just went.
I have
was
a little trouble with the body stuff, so I wanted to just continue that. I never know what is meant by the body to begin with, let alone getting comfort in the body. I mean, it's not the body, you're not feeling your pancreas. It's something other than that. It's some kind of feeling of something that you associate with a concept or something. I don't even know what I'm talking about, which is the point. I know the term proprioception, which it means like the sense of your body. It's like another sense. Proprio is like proper, your own. Etymologically, it comes from sensing yourself. But I've never quite understood this kind of the idealization of the body, that somehow we're in the mind, which is, we're not supposed to be there that much. There's something about the body as we talk about it that has some kind of meaning and implication that we don't ever really say, And when you focus, sometimes you talk, and then the other person says, where do you feel it in your body? And that never quite has meaning to me. I don't know what what am I supposed to be doing? It's just a mystery to me.
So much. That was just exquisite articulation of what it's like to not have any idea what are they talking about. So thank you. I'm glad that's going to be recorded.
I'm going to jump in, kind of, and it's like, okay, I've made the sound. It's like that splash. It's in my body. What I have heard, and I just wondered what would it be like to be held by Kevin, like a baby, you know, and in that way, it's kind of like, was your grandchild? That's what I heard. So you wouldn't be holding me like your grandchild, but the fact that I've even kind of risked that sort of intimacy, because when you talked about the pause and not actually needing to soothe the baby and the baby coming alive, I really sensed the difference about that. Well, whether it was grandfather or it didn't matter, you know, it's a different sort of holding. And even though I say, I wonder what it'd be like being held by you, I'm actually trusting that you are holding me. I just want to take that risk of a different being received without words. Cuivine, we call Kevin over here in Ireland.
What was that, Pauline? Cuivine? What?
Cuivine is Kevin in Gaelic. Bramore is much love.
I'd like to respond to Liz about the body. It's a conversation. I'm hoping maybe Lynn can do a whole session on just what people mean by the body. I love body work. I'm being receiving body work. I go to another plane and feel some sort of connection. But I too always resist, where do you feel it in your body? And sometimes I'll make it up because I have to be a good patient or I force it. And when I hear the question, sometimes I even disassociate because it's so complex to me. That's really what I want to say. So I appreciate, Liz, you putting it out there. And I have the hope that we will spend a lot more time on this whole area.
June here. And I would like to add to that, if I can, that having an aging body is not easy. And I would like to have some time spent with that, because either if we're not ourselves aging in this group, I'm sure we all know someone who is. So I think it would be a useful session on changes and difficulties with changing body. Like, who is this body, right? Or where is my body that I knew?
I was going to say something, but Sophie, please go ahead.
There's so many threads here that I would love to follow. I'm a little bit, so many threads. I know we're following the thread. Lots of threads. And in the so many thread, I do feel there is a place in me that feels pained. You know, when there's so many threads, so many of us and a we, it's very hard for everyone to be acknowledged. And even the we that is maybe implicit in the explicit. It's good to acknowledge that. And that's one way that I settle myself in the body by standing up for myself in ways that it could show up as a smile, or it could show up as speaking up, or it could show up as putting a hand on somebody else's back, having their back, or taking a glass of water. I always remember times when I work with toddlers, abused and neglected toddlers and their families. And there was a lot of unsettled bodies and reactions. There were ways where being in the physical reality of the body really helped. And it can take many different forms. Sometimes it was containing, sometimes it was giving space, making a safe space. And for a young body angry, for example, it meant pillows and no sharp objects. Wanted to say that to Rachel. Being in the body is also or mirroring or showing something in their bodies that is settled. It's true, sometimes it doesn't feel safe.
Sophie, that was a beautiful last statement. I'm wondering if we could end our conversation here and take a couple of breaths and then maybe comment on what we made here in this conversation. Where did we go for our walk? There were many strands. I just want to say the issue of the body is so important, and is very complex because we're not talking so much about the physical body, but the sense. And when Pauline said that she could feel what it would be like to be held by Kevin, I could feel that so physically. It's sort of a palpable feeling, a sensuality. But let's take a couple of breaths and step back a little bit. Maybe you even want to move back in your chair. And let's have a few comments about this whole experience of taking this walk together this morning, our practice of relating. How was it different than the way we usually are, or was it the way we usually are as the helpers?
It seemed calmer to me, and there seemed to be more room for people to speak.
Yeah, I think it was partly taking time to listen, but I think maybe that's what Gray is thinking about. I wanted to respond briefly to Liz because I also find it kind of where we're asked, oh, where do you feel that in your body is a little too directive. And I like pausing. I prefer to say pausing rather than the body, to come into the present experience in this moment. It's also how we're together and listening, right? So it isn't just going into our body, but being in response to this body, right? And I think that there were some very lovely comments made today. And each one of them, I think, did carry the flow of our being together. But it's not just, the body's a little too concrete sometimes. Jean talked about an edge, finding an edge, which he said the edge was the felt sense. And for that, we need to slow down, pause, sense.
I don't know if this is responsive to your question, Lynn, but I just wanted to thank everybody, but thank you, Kevin, for what you said about the holding of your grandchild, what was said about wanting to be held that way. That to me feels like a very new way of relating, and such a needed way. Even great affection or great praise, there's sort of an aggression towards the other, in that there's an activity or an imposition. Oh, I love you so much. Da, 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 da. And this just is being a space and allowing and inviting the other to find its way with a baby, an infant, and with a person or an animal, to just be the space and allow it to birth itself in a way, or something you say, grow into itself. That is such a wonderful sort of non-manipulative, non-aggressive, Gandhi-like, I think, way of being in the world. And I feel like, wow, if we could be that way in the world, it would be an entirely different world. Thank you for saying that. And I love having that just to be with and let it kind of birth itself in me, what that could be like in my life and in my relating to others. So
hi everybody, this is Shashi. I'm in India these days. I just came to my my country, my home. And it's been so good to be part of this conversation. And I feel like we all are like weavers carrying our threads and making a tapestry. But a design is so abstract that we all have to make our own design. And it's okay not to know what it is. There is feeling that we're all struggling in it. It feels good. I'm so glad that I joined in today. Yes.
So glad you're here, Sashi. And I had the image of this tapestry that we're making. All of you answering the question, what was the conversation about? And I think we might have many different answers, and then we could thread them together. Thank you all so much. I love this conversation.